Love it or hate it, Tesla is one of the biggest brands in our culture. It has risen to fame for good and bad reasons, but there are so many lessons that can be gleaned. So if you are a business owner or a professional service provider, today's episode is going to share 3 lessons that you can begin applying to your business today. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and it is July, which means we are in our special summer series. The episodes are a little bit shorter, but they're also more actionable. So today I wanted to talk about Tesla. So much has come up in the news and just in our politics and culture related to Tesla, but also I trade stocks, and there's a lot going on in the stock market related to Tesla. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Actionable tips that you can use to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that Tesla has made and that you can learn from them. So 3 lessons. And the first lesson is brand reputation. We have seen this with a lot of different companies recently. We've seen it with Tesla. We've seen it with Budweiser. We've seen it with Target. And they're on different sides of the coin when it comes to brand reputation. So this isn't just a left or a right thing. It is truly about standing for one thing and or having a very specific customer and speaking to that customer, and then totally changing the values, the direction, or doing something that is completely incongruent with the customer base. So with Tesla, they stood for so many years. They stood for innovation. They stood for climate change and being green. And it was a symbol for many people who saw themselves as forward thinking, as visionaries, as well as really caring about the environment. It was very much considered a more liberal type company. That was Tesla's customer base. And then Elon decided that he was not only going to get involved in Twitter, but get involved in politics. So when he bought Twitter, he started posting and tweeting a lot of things on, well, I guess it's not now X. He started posting a lot of things that were inconsistent and offensive to his customer base at Tesla. And so then they were confused. So before he even got involved with Donald Trump, there were definitely customers out there saying, is this a company that I actually want to be supporting? There were people already saying, like, should I get rid of my car? Should I sell my car? Because this is not something I want to support. And then Elon got involved in politics, very vocal, spending a ton of money. And his politics are directly misaligned with those of the Tesla customer base, which then really made them want to sell their cars. In fact, you see all the bumper stickers that say, I bought this before Elon, went crazy. And now there's a large conservative base that is wanting to buy the Teslas. I live in Tennessee, good gosh, and Marsha Blackburn, she posted, Easter Sunday, headed to church in my Tesla. And so now the brand, there's a lot of confusion around it. It had a strong brand reputation, but then it started veering another way. And so now it's like, what does Tesla stand for? And no one really knows. And that is not good for a brand. The stock has been impacted because of it. So the lesson that you can take away from this is Number one, be clear on your brand values. Be clear on your customer base. And if you are trying to portray brand values to a specific customer base, you better continue to uphold those values. It's not about not having values. It's about your customer base feeling as though they were not aware of your values or that you changed your values. Similarly, Budweiser, right? Their customers thought, we thought you stood for this, and turns out you stood for something else. And so it's just really important to make sure that your values are always aligned and consistent with who you are so that you do not upset your customer base. Lesson number 2. So when Elon bought Twitter, it was a huge distraction for Tesla. And the more companies he started, the more he was involved in the day-to-day, the less time he was spending at Tesla. The more people would be sharing that within the company that he was nowhere to be found, that they were losing his leadership. And that negatively impacted the stocks. I believe was it like 2 Decembers ago? It fell really, really fast because he was so involved in Twitter. And then he started having to sell shares to help with Twitter. And it happened again recently when he was part of Doge. So he is doing all of this government work and the stocks tanked again. And the reason the stocks tanked for those 2 points in time is because he was distracted and not focused on the company. And so that really is where attention goes, energy flows. Where attention goes, energy flows. A lot of stockholders could care less what the values are. Now, the people who buy the cars, they do care. The people who buy the stock, maybe, maybe not. So when people buy stocks, these large institutions, and they're making decisions, when they start selling shares because the CEO is distracted, it tells them that the company is not getting the time, energy, and attention that it needs. So if you are a business owner or you are a professional service provider, and let's say you have a lot of different businesses, you've got a lot of things going on, or you constantly tell people, because we like to wear busyness as a badge of honor. And so it can be really easy to say when you run into someone like, how's it going? Oh, it's good. I'm just really busy. That's not actually a good thing if they are a potential client or referral source, because you are sending the signal that you do not have the time and energy to pay attention to a new matter. Also, if you've got a million different offers, if you are a generalist and you are like, I can do anything, people don't trust that. This is why really being an expert in just one or a few areas can matter, not just in terms of scaling and all of that, but where attention goes, energy flows, not just in your own personal life, but this is the perception of people who would be investing or buying, right? Buying your products and your services. So making sure that your customer base and your referrals are very clear that you have the time and attention to give to them if they hire you. Okay, lesson number 3. He makes these wild, grandiose claims about what is going to happen with the company. So many times he has, again, just made these really bold statements that he then cannot back up. The self-driving, the promises forever have not matched what has actually happened from a timeline perspective. And that too has impacted the valuation of the company, and for all of these customers who have bought things that they were promised and then they've not actually happened. And so that is just a reminder for all of us that we can be so excited. We can be so passionate about what it is that we are offering and creating. But it's so important not to promise things that you cannot yet deliver on. So, yes, show up with passion. Yes, show up convicted and grounded in the amazing work that you can and do provide. I have a lot of people who listen who actually struggle to have any self-confidence around this. So if that's you, please do not take this advice to somehow play small. But for those of you who are trying to sell and maybe you're imitating or mimicking other people, just know that when you overpromise and underdeliver, that can also harm your company and your brand. So that's it. Those are the 3 lessons that you can take from Tesla and apply today. As a heads up, applications are opening soon for Growth Accelerator this fall and the All-In Mastermind for 2026. So if you are not yet on my newsletter, you can go ahead and do that at heatherjoyhubbard.com/subscribe. And I'll put a link in the show notes as well. If you join the newsletter, you will be the first to know that applications have opened in August. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after-show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.